Okay, producer Bill Williams here. We're going to do a little short video on just arranging and kind of a little bit of drum programming and so forth. This is just a track I've been working on, and I'm just going to play you a little bit of it. I'm actually working on this breakdown. Okay, I'm just going to stop it right there. So a couple things. I'm just going to kind of go through a little bit of what I've got here. I'm not going to really get too deep into the mix bus type of stuff. I'm just going to kind of focus on the programming. For one, you've got this is all put together with what I call drums on the grid, which is how I do a lot of my programming. It's not with MIDI. So to do drums on the grid, the way that you typically will do that is you drag in either single hit drum samples or loops from the library, and usually you'll use Workspace and kind of navigate to where your drum library is, and I've got a pretty big one here. So you kind of go through and find drum sounds, and if you see something you like or hear something you like, just kind of audition some sounds there. Then you drag it into the bin. It creates a track for it, obviously, and then you can kind of manipulate it. So obviously, to be able to do that, you have to have kind of a handle on your tempo. And of course, the tempo is set here at that point right there. That's the proper conductor tempo insertion point. So you would just insert your tempo right there. And of course, alternately, you have the tempo that you can set on the fly, which is here. So since I'm in conductor mode, then the tempo is set there. Otherwise, I would set it here. In either way, it looks like I've got the tempo set the same. So at any rate, let's go back to where we were in the song and take a look. So here, this first track is the kick, and you can hear a couple things about that. Number one, you can see that this is the full frequency version of the kick, and then you've got the high pass filter version of the kick that comes in at the top of the break. So let's just take a listen to that. Or actually, it's in the middle of the break, I should say. So here, let's just solo the kick for a second. And then when it changes there, it goes to the high-pass filter version. You can see the difference of the wave sample. So I actually used an Audio Suite plugin to do the high-pass filtering and created a new audio sample. Okay. And the way I do all of this editing is once I get the samples in there that I want, I go ahead and trim them to the size of, in this case, an eighth note, and create a new sample based on that to put a fade in and all that good stuff. Same thing with the loop. I cut all the loops up into eighth note or 16th note chunks depending on the type of loop it is. And you can hear it filtering. Now the next thing I did is I put together a dynamic filter on the hi-hat here for this breakdown section. So it switches. I switched to a different hi-hat. So here's the regular open hi-hat, which is just like your typical long 909. But for the breakdown, I wanted a shorter, more chunkier sounding hi-hat. So I changed it to this one. And then what I wanted to do is to sort of bring the energy down gradually over the breakdown. So as you can see, I cut the low frequency on the kick halfway through, and I'm doing a filter. not a volume fade out, but that automation is for frequency on the I use an EQ3, which is usually what I end up using. It's just basically it's a standard kind of filter. I'm just doing a 6 dB per octave, kind of a shallow, smooth slope. Now, as it gets to about this point in the frequency range, this is about where the hi-hat begins to disappear because there's really no frequencies below, very little energy below 1K as it is. So as it gets down to where the frequency point is around 1K or just below 1K, it starts to just disappear altogether. As you can hear this, even though it was still going there, you could barely hear it. So that's why I have instead of the ramp ending there, I have the ramp ending a little later, because basically I want to still kind of hear it a little bit. It's still barely there at the very end of that. So let's hear it with the map music. That's pretty much that. So, as you can see, the hi-hats are all getting cut. Let's take a look at those hi-hats, the ones that are in the previous part of the song. Let's just kind of solo those. There's 4 that are kind of working together. There's a couple that are in stereo. They're kind of bopping back and forth in stereo. And actually, they're all kind of bopping back and forth. So let's take a look one at a time. So you have one that's just kind of... So that's just a standard offbeat hi-hat, and that's just on the left channel. And this one here, the chunky one, is a kind of a pattern, and that's on the right channel. So the two together sound like this. And then you have these other two that are kind of playing off of each other. And those are kind of on the non-accented 16th notes. So those kind of give it a different kind of gallop. Put them all 4 into act together. And then the main open hi-hat kind of goes up the center and just kind of locks down the groove. Now that sounds like that's on the quarter note, but it actually is on the upbeat. So let's bring the kick in so we can actually hear how it orients to the downbeat. And that kind of gallops. And of course you got your clap. I have got 3 different layers, actually 4 different layers of clap. I have this one, which is kind of a, what is this? This is like the long one. So that's a little bit of reverb built in. So if we zoom in, we can kind of see a little bit of reverb in there. And that's cut to to 2 beats. And then this one and this one are shorter. So this one's like a 909 with some reverb. This one is kind of a Parliament P-Funk clap. Little George Clinton kind of thing there. Then you got your stereo clap. And this one is just basically adds a lot of that sort of like width live clap kind of. It's actually not as wide as I thought it was. That's kind of a narrow stereo clap with a little bit of reverb, but it's a little more live. So together, the 3, you've got your Roland drum machine style, you got your Parliament P-Funk style clap, and you got your sort of live ambient type of clap. So together, the 3 of those are the best. They're sort of the greatest hits of claps. And then I got the long clap, which is your classic let the music play. Got to have that. Your Shannon clap. That comes in every few beats. Then what else do we have? We have the toms that play throughout the track. Let's take a listen to those. Those are kind of in stereo. Gotta have your disco toms. Disco toms. And they're just kind of panned. And then, you know, crash cymbals. Why just have one crash cymbal on the downbeat? That's kind of boring. So what I have here is an array of crash cymbals. They're all little different crash cymbals. This one's in the middle, and these are kind of panned. So you get kind of almost like a tom roll, staggered panning effect of crash cymbals. Let's just solo that for a sec. Got to do it. Got to get your Tommy Lee in there. Hit every crash. Don't want to miss a crash. Okay, and now let's continue back to this break. Got to have your reverse crash. Don't miss out on your reverse crash. And you're going to introduce a break. It's probably a good idea to also have white noise ascend. And then a different white noise descend. Why do it any other way? And we're in Mars. Let's go to the break. And so the main instruments kind of drop out here because it's a break. I'm going to kind of build it back up. Kind of goes down to the bass. So let's take a look at what the bass is made up of. Looks like this red guy is about to take leave. I think I'm about to drop it out. I didn't really dig it too much when I opened this track up yesterday. Started working on it. It's a little too muddy. So let's kind of listen to it. That's what I filtered a lot of low end off of it in an attempt to kind of salvage it. This came from a Roland Jupiter 08, which is the Jupiter 8 boutique module, you know, little like $300 boutique modules, and I had borrowed that for a while, and I found it to be pretty good for a digital modeling type of thing, but it had a little bit of top-end aliasing I wasn't digging. So that's why I kind of ended up, this guy I'm going to end up, I re-EQ'd it, took a little bit of the top off of it. But then I felt like I'm going to end up using this for the bottom. And this one I'm just going to not use, I think. I think I'm going to just get rid of it. And then I replaced it with this yesterday, the Arturia Mini Moog V, doing the same part, but with a little bit more grit, a little bite. So here's the two together. The kickback. And then lastly, I did a little bit of use clip. I try to not use actual automation, at least volume, or I use pan automation and effect send and parameter automation often, but I try not to use volume automation on the actual tracks because it just ends up slowing down my process of being able to have all the faders live. But I love clip automation. So I use the clip gain. This is how I did this little fade out. So I'll just kind of listen to this. Gotta fade that little guy out there. Mute the Rhodes. And let's listen to it one more time throughout that part. Still got to work on the build-up. That's what I'm going to work on next. It's breaking down, it's breaking down, it's breaking down. It continues breaking down to about here, and then it starts to build up. So that's what I'm going to start on next. And thanks for checking it out.